Got those natty delts, boys. All right, there we go. Listen, what's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for all the support on the last video. I don't know if you guys saw, but I mean, we just flew right past 500 subscribers with that video. We're closing in on 600 now. I mean, that video's got 90 plus comments, which is just off the charts, what I'm used to. And I mean, 95% of them were all really positive. It was really it was fantastic. But more than that, it showed me that there really is a market and a group of people who are just tired of hearing how shit it needs to be natural, trying to compete against people who use drugs. And this is going to be something you guys are going to hear me bash over and over and over again. Because yes, people who take drugs are at an advantage. And me, if I hopped on gear, would always be stronger than me natty. That's true, but that doesn't mean I can't compete. And so today, that is what I want to prove to you guys. So what I have gone and done is I have found lifters from the pre-steroid era. We're talking almost all of them pre-1935. There's one exception for a guy who pulled a lift in the late 40s. Technically, steroids did exist then, but it was not at all something used or even widely produced or available to these guys. So if you want to be a real how should we put it, a real skeptic, you can put a cross next to his name, but all the rest of them pre-1935. Now, a lot of people in the sort of natty community have also looked at these older guys, but usually it is in connection to the sort of odd lift community. Guys like Atlas Power Shrugged, who I really like, but they do odd lifts. And although a lot of the stuff that they do is pretty cool, I don't do odd lifts and I don't compete in odd lifts, and they don't really interest me purely because there's no competitive federation and no world title to win. So what I went and did is pick lifts that I think can transfer over to three different, well, multiple events in strongman, but have direct correlation to a couple of events in strongman so that we can see one-to-one what is the type of comparison to the numbers we've got, what is the standard that you can actually attain as a natty, and is that going to be enough to be able to win at the highest level? Is it possible? So I'm going to list off a couple of names for you guys, their stats, and what they've lifted. So I'm going to start off overall, which means we're talking about some bigger guys, right? We'll start off with Herman Gorner, born 1891, 6 foot 1 inches, weighing in around 265 pounds. This man still has the one-arm deadlift record at 727.5 pounds. Right? That was his unofficial lift. His official lift, 665.5 pounds. His deadlift was 830 pounds, guys. Okay, he had a 391 pound clean and press and a 440 pound two hands anyhow lift. Now, for you guys who don't know what that is, a two hands anyhow lift is essentially you push one weight, a barbell, overhead with one arm, right? What's usually called a bench press, and then you pick up another weight with your other arm and push that overhead. The reason why I'm including that is more so because of the bench push, the bench press number, not because that carries over particularly well to something like an overhead press or a push press, because it is a more technical movement, but because in my mind, even though this movement is about displacing the body from the barbell, I think that it can be a decent analog, although not great, not necessarily perfect, but at least some analog for something like a circus dumbbell where you're also displacing the body compared to the weight. Now you guys got to remember, in strongman here, for a bit of context, in strongman, you have to move a weight from point A to point B, but usually how you move from point A to point B is not important, right? So in a deadlift, you have to move the bar from the floor to standing erect with your feet inside of your arms. Strongman doesn't allow sumo. That's point A and point B. You can get that bar that way, however. You use straps, you're allowed to hitch. The rep can be as dirty as it can be. But if you stand erect with the barbell, it's a made lift. So theoretically, you could press a circus dumbbell like these guys used to bench press. That's why I'm still using this as a useful metric. Right, okay. Second guy, Louis Cyr. You guys might have heard of him because the Cyr dumbbell is named after this guy. Right, born 1863, standing at 5'8" and around 350 pounds. We're talking a big boy here. He push pressed a 274 kilo dumbbell. This is the predecessor to the circus dumbbell, obviously. 1863. This man did not touch anything that looked like steroids. It was not possible. The next one, Louis Uni. Or called Apollon, what we now call the Apollon's axle or the axle press. He had a thick, what's essentially a 50 mil axle with wheels welded onto it. This thing weighed, 366 pounds, right? So we're looking at right around 170 kilos. He stood at 6'3", around 280 pounds, and he managed to clean and jerk this axle. Now, why this is so impressive, guys, is if you have ever tried to clean an axle, you can't clean it like a barbell because it is essentially a solid pipe. There's no bend, there's no spinning collars, right? What that means is you have to continental clean it. You can't rotate under the bar. It is really difficult to clean a bar like that. This guy, again, had to have been completely natty. Now, you guys might say these guys are all big, so their numbers might be really impressive, but let's be fair. If they were competing in the heavyweights or in the 105s today, they could do well, but they wouldn't be breaking any records. Fortunately for me, I compete in the under 80 kilo division, so I found some lighter guys. Not all of them necessarily light enough for under 80, but definitely light enough for the under 80 and the under 90 kilo class, right? Which is the two classes I've competed in. So first, we've got Maurice Jones, born 1914, 5'9", 200 to 240 pounds. He used to squat, so these are some of his numbers. He doesn't have as many 1 rep maxes to work with. He used to squat 415 pounds for sets of 15, right? His best set of 10 was 450, and his best 1 rep max squat is 525. Now, you guys got to remember, these are Steinborn squats. They're not out of a rack. Steinborn squats mean that you have to literally pick up the barbell, crawl under it, sit down into the bottom of the squat, and then stand up. Insanely more difficult than picking up a bar out of a rack is. And so you cannot convince me that if he can Steinborn squat 525, that he cannot squat 600 plus out of a rack, right? Impossible. Stiff leg deadlifts. He used to do stiff leg deadlifts, and when I say stiff leg, I mean at the bottom, the bar was touching the top of his feet, right? 425 for sets of 15 reps. There's no way you can't tell me that he wouldn't have been able to conventional deadlift over 600 with those numbers. I mean, almost definitely above that. He was squatting over 600. He could have deadlifted way over 600 for 1 rep max. Military press, 215 for 12. His best ever military press, 260 for a single. Now, guys, I'm assuming that might be a strict press, but even if it's just a push press, you got to remember, strongman, point A to point B. You're allowed to dip back under the weight. That is a lot of power. Right. Next, also clean and jerk, best clean and jerk. He tried it once, apparently. He clean and jerked either 300 or 325 pounds. Arthur Saxon, born 1878, 5'10", 200 pounds. Two hands anyhow lift with a 336 pound barbell and 112 pound kettlebell, right? A 386 pound bent press. A 386 pound Arthur lift, which for you guys who don't know, an Arthur lift, you basically have to clean the bar behind your back and then you jerk it from the behind the back position, which is more powerful than from the front rack, obviously, but still very impressive, a lot of power. Milo Steinborn, 553 pound squat. He invented the Steinborn squat. Again, this is a Steinborn squat. I guarantee you, if you put him in a rack, he can squat well over 600 pounds. He weighed 205 to 210. Right, he had a 218 pound one-arm snatch. Guys, I don't know if you've ever seen the video of Klokov doing a one-arm snatch with 225. This guy did a one-arm snatch with 218 100 years ago, right? Before steroids was even a thing. A 255 one-arm jerk. Now, I'm not quite sure what a one-arm jerk is or how that looks, but I'm just putting it up. A 375 pound clean and jerk. Right, again, that's right around 175 kilos. Right. Bob Peoples, this is the guy who you guys might complain about because technically his last lift was in 1949. But I do believe this guy's natty. He weighed only 181 pounds, right in my weight class. 725 pound deadlift, 225 pound strict press, a 530 squat. Okay. And just, guys, bonus round for the women, for those of you ladies out there. I know there aren't many, but we've got Katie Sanduina, Austrian lady from back in the day, 5'10". She weighed 200 pounds, this woman. She did a 286 pound continental clean and jerk. Right, that means probably with an axle. That is insane for a woman. Most of us dudes can't do that. Guys, the SA record in the axle press, I think, is 115 kilos. We'll get to that later. It's 115 kilos, which is not even 275. Right? 275 is like 125. So this lady has clean and jerked more than the SA axle clean and press record. It's incredible. Now, what is the point behind all this? Well, I want to take you guys through what the records are in strongman in 3 lifts: the deadlift, the axle clean and press, and the circus dumbbell, because I know technically the circus dumbbell and the bench press are different, but theoretically you could do a circus dumbbell like you do a bench press and it would be perfectly legal, right? So it does cross over, so bear with me, right? The strongman deadlift record in the under 80 kilo category, officially, based on what I can find on Starting Strongman, and I think they're using the kind of official records from OSG, which is obviously where I compete. That's worlds for the lighter weight classes. So if there's a world record in a different federation, and that's not important to me because this is where I'm going to go, where I'm trying to go compete, right? So heaviest deadlift in the under 80 kilo category based on the site, 320 kilos. Now, I have seen a video of this guy, Ben Donan, who's an under 80 kilo strongman. I can't tell what fed this is in based on this video. I'm not exactly sure what this is, but I've seen a video of him pulling 360 kilos. It's a 40 kilo difference. It's a big difference, right? 360 kilos, 320 kilos. If we run the math on that, 320 times 2.205, that's 705 pounds, right? The 360, we're talking about 793 pounds, so that's close to 800 pounds, right? Now, on the lower end of that, guys, the 320, Bob Peoples at 181 has pulled more than that, 100% natty, right? They weren't using straps then either. If you slap some straps on him, he's pulling more, right? Now, there isn't another guy in the lighter weight classes who has managed to deadlift more than 800, or close to 800. But again, we do have big homeboy Herman Gorner, who did deadlift more than that, completely natural, right? He deadlifted 830. But you got to remember, guys, I'm going to bring this up again. You don't have to break a world record to win in strongman. Strongman competitions, usually 6 events, right? Static strength is important for 2 to 3 of them. The others, it's moving events. Doesn't mean they're not heavy, but we're talking strength endurance. We're talking heavy sandbags for long distances. And as I'll get to in the next video I'll make, that's my strong suit. So I don't have to pull a world record to win. As long as you place within the top pack, you don't have to win every event. If you do all around the best, you win the competition, right? So if there are a large, we're talking out of these guys here, we're talking 2 out of these guys, Bob Peoples, definitely Maurice Jones, both could 100%, and Milo Steinborn likely too because of his high squat, could deadlift into the 600s. Bob Peoples obviously into the 700s. We're talking high 600s on the deadlift. That is close enough to be competitive, right? Second thing, the axle press record. Now, the official record I see on the site here, we're talking about here we go, 142 kilos. Right, it's 312 pounds. Now, again, this video of Ben Donan doing 152, right? 152 would be around, what, 330 pounds? Now, this is actually the easier one to show examples with because there are plenty of examples of guys here. Milo, clean and jerking, 375, right? We've got an Arthur lift at 385. Now, behind the back presses are technically a bit easier, but you guys will get the point. Bob Peoples, 225 strict press, right? Maybe not a jerk that heavy. If we go to the slightly heavier guys. Oh, Maurice Jones, clean and jerk 300 to 325, right, on his first try. We look at the bigger guys, Apollon's Axel, Louis Uni, 366 pounds. Do you guys understand where I'm going with this? The point is, okay, we'll finish on Circus Dumbbell. I'm pretty sure Circus Dumbbell we had here 205, 90 kilos. I mean, that's not even the bent presses we see here are, you know, well into the 300s and plenty of guys in the 200s range. And again, not a one-to-one correlation, but the point here is, guys, even if it can't quite break a world record, it is very clear that there are natural people who are able to lift competitive numbers for this class. And so, to say that you can't compete because you don't use drugs is not true. Yes, the drugs give an advantage. Of course they do. In any sport, me on drugs will always be stronger than me off of drugs. I'm not saying that it doesn't do anything, but what I am saying is that until we all hit these numbers, we don't get to use those guys use steroids as an excuse. It's not an excuse. It's an invitation, guys. It's an invitation to take the high road, not take juice and kick fucking ass. That's what it is. And that's what I want you guys to start seeing this as. It doesn't just have to be, I'm going to be a natty and I'm going to be okay and I'm going to do fucking odd lifts in my basement. Not that there's anything wrong with odd lifting, but you guys understand my point. Look at these numbers. These numbers are competitive. Which means that me or anybody who is able to put in the time and the effort and get to these numbers could be one of, if not the best. And we haven't even talked about moving events, which is the one thing that, for example, I have a big advantage in. I'm fantastic at moving events. Static events are my worst thing. That's what I hate. So I'm picking the hardest thing for me to try win at and saying it is possible. The biggest discrepancy is going to be in the static events, and it is possible. So guys, stop telling yourself that it's not possible to do it without drugs, because it very clearly is. It very clearly is. And I hope that you see this as a wake-up call to get off your ass and start chasing after some of these, because they are possible. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video and you want to keep following me on this journey, trying to win worlds. I'll see you guys next time. Cheers.